Farmers in Darfur were frustrated with the fact that they had no power and control. The government made all the laws without taking their lifestyle into consideration. Fed up, in 2003, they formed rebel groups and attacked government bases, such as an Air Force building. The government responded by hiring a local Arab militia called the Janjaweed to subdue the rebels and obtain peace. The Janjaweed had wanted land controlled by the rebels. They used brutal methods, however, such as torture and rape, and over time they completely disregarded the government and started doing their own thing. Their violence and destruction has caused millions of refugees and negatively impacted Darfur.
This genocide is so important because many people have died from the numerous wars and rebellions that have occurred. The people that have survived have had to evacuate the premises and go to neighboring countries such as Chad. Chad has about 200,000 refugees in their country. Because of this horrible ongoing crisis, the number of refugees are still rising every day. The amount of violence is so alarming that the UN has called it one of the worst humanitarian crises in the world. It has stopped the development of the economy and has destroyed the lives of hundreds of thousands of people.
Today, killings are still going on and the number of at-risk civilians is increasing. Many victims are suffering from malnutrition and disease, and famine is also a problem. They are still being tortured, raped, and murdered. Rape especially has been a signature method of abuse. In their culture, rape is a sign of disgrace. Women and children have been either shunned or punished for their illegal pregnancies. Also, civilians have been fleeing from the dangerous war zones and camping near Darfur's main towns for protection. Companies such as International Medical Corps have installed water sanitation equipment and opened up hospitals to treat injured victims. Until this issue is fully resolved, there will be much suffering and deaths to come.
There have been several causes that are dedicated to the stopping the genocide in Darfur. Such aids are from foreign countries trying to push the Sudanese government to handle the killings. For example, the UN sent over around 26,000 peacekeepers in Darfur in 2007. America, however, is currently in fear that forcing too much on the government will compromise the treaty between the North and South Sudan. China is taking a stand and providing better care for the indicator region. Already they have created 5 branches of assistance in Darfur, which cost the country a large sum of money. The government of China has also promised to provide more humanitarian care for Darfur. There have been treaties signed like the one in 2004, there was the humanitarian ceasefire agreement, and in 2006 the Darfur peace agreement. But even with all of these, Darfur has a long way to go before peace is reached.
There has been many attempts to stop this horrible conflict. However, no peace has been officially reached because the government has resisted against pressures being placed on them to stop this genocide. The country altogether has made it difficult for peace to be reached. Also, foreign help has provided so little aid for the country that hasn't made much of an impact. A reporter states, I quote, "Those peacekeepers have been weak. The African Union force has been ineffective." One more reason why this conflict is still a major issue is that neither side is willing to compromise and that they are both still fighting each other.
The Darfur conflict has affected the region's culture vastly, since such a large influx of people are moving from Darfur and into neighboring countries. These people who seek protection from the war would be creating a movement of culture from one country to the next. They could be forced to integrate into another society, however reluctant they are to lose their tradition. For example, they might not be allowed to practice another religion in the foreign country. Or when Sudanese people marry into foreign cultures, their children's beliefs could be influenced by both parents. In addition, villages have been destroyed along the natives' indigenous heritage. This is the tip of the iceberg of how Darfur's one-of-a-kind culture is disappearing.
Of the estimated 6 million people living in Darfur, Sudan, over 2.8 million people were displaced from the war. 200,000 of these refugees have migrated to Chad. Also, over 480,000 were killed by war-related causes.
With war on the balance, a stable supply of income is not possible due to funds. The government supplies the necessities of the army rather than the basic conveniences of the people. This can lead to severe famine and refuge. For example, there are already 6 million people in Sudan that require food aid from foreign countries. It also stops tourism and the development of urban societies, which include railroads and communication systems. As long as the situation continues to spiral out of control, there can be no room for advancements or altercations until the differences are resolved.
In my opinion, both of our regions, the rural and the urban, were affected the same amount. The people from the rural areas who began and the conflict have been in through meaningless amounts of torture such as rape, murder, genocide, and as well brought this means of abuse onto the surrounding areas, whether it was forced refuge or being victimized by the government or Jawaj. This has been a tragedy to the entire country as a whole.
I think out of the entire Sudan population, the refugees were affected the most because they were caught in the crossfire. These innocent people were defenseless because it was never their intention to engage in war, unlike the rebels in government who were prepared to defend themselves. Manslaughter, rapes, and robberies are the most common and notable crimes that the people have suffered at the hands of the Janjaweed. It's also too dangerous to venture out a certain area for food and supplies because of the risk posed. Men get killed and women get raped. Fleeing is an option, yet stretches of camps on neighboring countries' borders are even endangered by lurking militias. According to the UN, over 300,000 people have died, while more than 2.7 million citizens have had to flee their homes.
Look right through me.
I think if the government had originally taken the population into consideration, this conflict would not have begun. It would have saved a lot of time and trouble, and innocent lives would not have been lost.
This is a serious issue that more people should take part in. If there is a majority of the society that is educated, more progress will become active to stop this genocide. It can lead to peace and aid groups and increased donations to support the ailing citizens in Darfur. We should try to raise awareness by informing others of this crisis.
From underneath the trees, we watch the sky, confusing stars, satellites. I never dreamed that you'd be mine, but here we are, we're here tonight. Singing, man, I'm alive, singing, man, I'm alive. Died and I'm singing, amen, amen, I'm alive, amen, amen, I'm alive. And in the air, the fireflies are only light in paradise. We show the world they were wrong and teach them all to sing along. Singing, amen.